Hey, Language Arts parents, welcome to our last round of conferences for the school year. Just giving you a little bit of an overview of what's happening in class right now and some reminders about what has been going on in class so far this year. We want to make sure we finish strong, and so I want to make sure that all students are on the same page and parents at home as well, that you know expectations, procedures in class, that you know what kids should be doing, what they should be bringing home for homework each night, and how to prepare them to just be successful here at the end of eighth grade and going into high school, which is just a few short months away. Just to start off with the grade book, there are two main assessment categories in the grade book. You'll see summative assessments and formative assessments. Summative assessments are much heavier, and those are our summative final projects in a unit. Oftentimes it's an essay, oftentimes it's some sort of creative collaborative project. So those are the heaviest. Those are the most important things that kids need to be focusing on. We have formative assessments as well. Those are a little bit lighter, and those are typically composed of things like our weekly notes quizzes that we do on Fridays. If students are getting lower grades on those, it is often because they're just not taking notes during the week. So encourage them. Feel free to check their notebooks, make sure that they're keeping track of what's going on. The bulk of what happens for those notes quiz happens on Wednesdays, actually. We call it Word Wednesday, so we usually go over a couple affixes from other languages. We talk about breaking down words that we see every day or sometimes don't see every day to get deeper meaning out of them. We take lots of notes on Wednesdays specifically, and so that should be the biggest day that kids are being prepared and doing what they need to do. Also, in that formative assessment grade is a homework participation grade. I collect homework participation points for a variety of things. Maybe it's an exit ticket. Maybe it's a bell ringer. Maybe it's getting your Lexia minutes done in class while we're working on them. It's a variety of things. And so when we get to 10 of those, I put in a grade out of 10 in the grade book. It gives you a little bit of a glimpse into how much your student is doing in class and outside of class on those small things that turn into big things. A reminder on retake policy for my classroom, and that is assessments can be turned in 1 week from the due date. A lot of those formative assessments, I don't allow retakes on. I don't have students make up notes quizzes because it's pertaining to that week. It's information that's particularly relevant for that week that builds up to a summative assessment. And so if you miss or if you want to do retake, I don't have that built into my policies because it just doesn't really seem to make sense. It's not the most efficient use of either of our time. A reminder on supplies, that's kind of dwindling. I notice a lot of students grabbing my pens and pencils that I leave out for them. So make sure that they have a notebook, they have writing utensils. They should always have an independent reading book checked out as well. Just an update that we have Iowa assessments and iReady, both coming up here relatively shortly. Iowa assessments are next week, the week of the 19th, and then iReady will be that first week of May, if I'm not mistaken. Both really important assessments, especially, well, both are important. I would say Iowa assessments is especially important because we just don't really know what the effects from COVID are going to be in terms of progress students have made. And then iReady is particularly important so we can track progress across the school year for students specifically. We just got done with our literary essay unit. I should say we're still kind of wrapping it up. If you're watching this on Thursday or Friday, we will be done. Otherwise, we're finishing it up the middle of the week of conferences here. Students' final project is a compare and contrast essay where they're comparing two texts. One is one that we've looked at in class in some way, shape, or form. The other one is a choice text, one that they could pick from home. That could have been a song, could have been a movie. I talked to a few students about that. I even had a couple students do the campaign version of a video game where there was lots of text built into the game. I wanted to appeal to the things that they enjoy analyzing to develop those skills. It's not as big of a priority for me. They know how to analyze specific texts that I give them. It's more that they're able to analyze any sort of text. And so that analysis process is what we're focusing on in this last part of the unit in their compare and contrast essay. Preview of where we're going. Our next unit is approaching the classics. So we're going to be digging into some mythology, tying things back to just the classics of literature. I'm really excited about that. That's a unit that I helped craft this last summer. And then we have a journalism unit as well that will probably round out the school year for us since units usually take about 3 weeks. we may find some time for a short poetry unit as well. A couple things in terms of just what I'm seeing in the classroom. Language has been an issue this year in the middle school, either just negative language, sometimes specific cussing, things like that, but just negative language in general. Students having a hard time, interacting with others positively. There's lots of lingering effects from COVID, and I think this is a big one that students struggle to, to make friends, to sit with new people in table groups, to work collaboratively and positively in group work. So I want you to be aware of that's probably going to require some additional support and instruction from parents at home, from teachers at school, from all ends to make sure that students are interacting positively. Some work ethic things that I've noticed as well. It's almost kind of contrary to what I just said, but when students get some work time, they really are just drawn to their friends and they aren't super productive during that time. And so I would love to give them chances to be collaborative, since that's what the real world looks like. You often get chances to work with other people on projects, but they are struggling to just learn that independence and what work time should look like, which is often just nose to the grindstone, getting stuff done. So that's something we've been working on this year as well. And then homework, I'm struggling to see kids, tracking with what they're supposed to be doing, either each night or, as often as I give homework. So students should have an expectation of something they should be doing each night, especially as they're heading into high school. And they should also have some habits of how they're recording that homework and keeping track of it. I have a lot of students who just show up the next day and are like, oh, yeah, I totally forgot, because they didn't write it down. All right, well, that's a quick overview, maybe kind of a long, quick overview of language arts. If you have any more questions or concerns, we can talk about those in your specific conferences, but also feel free to reach out to me via email, over the phone, in person, whatever the case is. I'd be glad to communicate with you on how we can support your students throughout the end of this important 8th grade year. Thank you. Have a good rest of your night.